So it started in the live context for me. I was playing on guitar and performing songs vocally, and at times I wanted to make the chorus bigger. I had a real love of pop structure and a love of dynamic that is created in pop music, and I wanted to be able to do that live. So I started experimenting with this Boss RC 20 or 50, I can't remember, but these were the foot pedals that you basically loaded up with free time loops. At that point there was no sort of MIDI sync or anything, it was just all free time, and I would layer up beds of vocals, just simple oohs and ahs, to kind of bring texture into the chorus. So I'd load them up at the start and then bring them in the chorus. So it was very basic, but that was the start of sort of me being able to envision arrangements as a solo artist that went beyond just me and my guitar. And of course that later went into the studio for me. So when I was fleshing out a demo for a song, instead of just putting it down on guitar, I thought, well, why don't I sing the chords out and pretend I'm a string section, or do what I would do in the live context with my loop pedal. If I was starting settle down, I like to start with a sample, and I can kind of sculpt it. This is throwing effects across the whole mix. Maybe some vinyl crack if I just want to bring ambience to the night, depending on the husband you expected him to be. This is controlling my effects up here, so if I want preset effects that I've built, I can bring them in and out. So these are different throws that I do. If it's a big chorus and we want a big flourish. Want to throw some delays on the out. Maybe I'll start to form a loop. And now I can affect the loop through this thing. Sing, 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 sing. This is a looper on the chaos. So filters as well. Reversing the loop. So basically, to break it down, it's treating the sample as though it's a waveform in the Pro Tools studio, and I can take that sample and stutter it, grabbing a section of the waveform and decide, or filter it. I mean, a lot of these machines do the same thing. This has its own set of filters, this does, but they're all different. So getting on the chaos pads allowed me to actually do my own throws. At the touch of a finger, and kind of be the master of when I could make something feel dramatic and cinematic or whatever. And of course I have the same thing now going with the stereo out of the computer, which is running loops and stuff. And it just gives us this ability to integrate the computer, but make it not the computer being the master. I'm still the master. I recently worked out how to connect my Critter and Atari to the Voice Live in order to create a vocoder-like effect, where it's sending MIDI notes into the Voice Live, but now it's opened up the chaos pads for me to do other things with them and use them as instruments rather than sculpting the vocals. So I can show you, I'm still working it out. It's not perfect, but to mid. And then go back to... So yeah, the next like step I want to go to is to be able to use these as instruments on stage as well. So when the boys rock out and we hit an instrumental section, I can kind of jam out with them on instruments. It's kind of the beauty of these things is that you're not sitting there like a professional musician working out the inversion. You're feeling it and you're discovering some things. These help me to play with that place between collapse and comfort. You know, I'm constantly on the edge of my seat, which is kind of fun.
In this video, I will show you how Kimbra created her performance using Machine MK3. Her use of Machine's internal looper might be of great interest to you if you're a singer-songwriter looking for a nice way to loop your own ideas and layer sounds quickly. To start sampling, bring up the sampler and choose your corresponding microphone input. On page 2, select Loop and set the length to 2 bars. Now, each time you hit Start, a new loop will be recorded and saved as separate take. Kimbra starts off with a vocal loop. Then she switches over to Group B, which holds the 808 kit from Machine's factory library. By holding Note Repeat, any sound will repeat according to the settings in the upper right display. Once the hi-hat pattern is running, she adds a kick and a snare in real time. Next, there's the bass line, which is generated by Machine's internal bass synth. To recreate the exact same sound that you can hear in her performance, raise the cutoff to 1.8 kHz, lower the resonance to 20%, and lengthen the decay just a tiny bit. In keyboard mode, you have access to all the separate notes, so hit record and give it a try. Then, Kimbra uses Machine's internal sampler again. This time, not as a looper as you've seen before, but as a traditional sampler that allows you to trigger samples and play them in different tunes right away. Go back to Group A and select an empty pad. This time, we're gonna use Detect mode. Set the threshold to off. Now you can manually start and stop the recording as you wish. Another difference is that this time, a sampler will be created after the recording is finished, instead of an audio plugin as before. That gives you the opportunity to play your sample right away. In pad as well as in keyboard mode. In the last section of her performance, Kimbra is bringing in another melody using a bell sound from Machine's factory library. In my demo, I used the fluffy fypage with a meta warp and an ice effect on top. To make a melody more interesting, I'd recommend going directly to chords mode. There, you can select the harmonizer. If you set it to octave, every note you play will be doubled by another note, 1 octave above. That's it. I hope you learned something along the way and got inspired. If you want to learn more, check out the other videos which explain Machine's looper in more detail.